you are going to need an outside independent third party. You can't trust what your ex is saying about, this is one of the biggest decisions you're going to make that's going to impact your divorce. You're just going to rack up a bill. I would highly recommend changing. You want to think about what the worst case scenario is and make sure you don't get there. Hi guys, it's Kelly. Welcome to my channel and welcome to my video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about things you can do when your spouse has left you, if your husband has left you, if your wife has left you. Let me tell you, I am so very, very sorry that this has happened to you. In this video, I'm going to be giving you my advice based on my experience. I'm going to be telling you what I wish I had known, but it may not be appropriate for your situation. So take whatever is helpful for you and leave the rest. I hope that some of these 11 items I'm about to share with you will be helpful for you. Number 7 is about all things attorney. And if you guys want me to do a separate video on everything attorney, I have had a lot of time with a family law divorce attorney, so I have a lot to say about it. You are going to need an outside independent third party who is going to give you information about how you are legally and what next steps you need to take. There are a lot of questions that you'll have that people in your life may not be able to answer. Things are different state by state as well. Early on, I was listening to a podcast by Dave Ramsey, and he was saying that you need to speak to a lawyer because you can't trust what your ex is saying about divorce and what they're gonna give you and how much money and all of that. In my situation, he was absolutely right. A good majority of the things that my ex told me the day he left me, he did not stand by those things and he didn't do them, and even things that he said about the law were incorrect. To go about getting an attorney, I would ask around to people that you know, you trust, if they get a divorce and they like their attorney, because if you go through a whole divorce and you still like your attorney at the end, it's probably a good attorney. You want to look for attorneys that have won awards. You want to look for attorneys that have not lost their license ever, because attorneys can lose their license to practice law because of varying things, but ethics being one of them, and then they can regain it at another period of time. And you won't know that unless you look it up and do research into that specific attorney and the things that happen in their state. I had family members do some research into attorneys because I was just so upside down I couldn't think straight, and they came up with an attorney that they recommended to me. My family member that's an attorney looked him up and checked him out. So my ex left me on Friday night, and on Monday morning I was on the phone with this attorney. Most attorneys have a free consultation, and in that free consultation they spend time answering your questions. Usually they ask questions too, just to make sure that they have an understanding of what your situation is. You could call multiple attorneys. You want to make sure that you feel like you can communicate well with the attorney you choose, because there is a lot of legal jargon that you're not going to understand, and you want somebody that's not going to make you feel stupid for asking questions. And when you do ask questions, you want to have an attorney that you feel like is going to communicate so that you do actually understand it after he's explained it to you, or she. I spoke with the attorney on the phone, and I was very nervous and very scared to do it, but he made it very easy. I did cry. Given the situation, I think the attorneys kind of expect that. They've dealt with enough people that they can tell that it's a really emotionally charged situation, and they deal with a lot of people who are emotional. I did apologize for it, and he said, no, it's understandable. He was empathetic, which I was surprised about, and he really had some really good suggestions, and he was just talking to me on the phone. There was no guarantee that he was going to get my business. So for him to give me free advice over the phone was great, and it was really sound advice as well. So before you call, write down a list of questions that you want to ask. When you talk to the attorney on the phone, explain your situation and ask tons of questions. Ask them what steps do I need to take from now. And I got some really good sound advice. It was good to get that feedback and to go, okay, this is what I need to do. So that was on Monday. I set up an appointment to meet with the attorney the next day because my mom is flying into town. Make sure you go in to meet the attorney with somebody else, whether it's a friend or a family member. Have them take notes, because you're going to ask a lot of questions, you're going to hear a lot of information, and you're not going to remember all of it because this is a very emotional situation. We spent a few hours in the office with the attorney answering more questions than we did on the phone. That time was all free. You want to take advantage of that free consultation period because attorneys are so expensive and they will charge you to the minute once they start charging. Ask tons of questions during that period of time. Interview more than one. This is one of the biggest decisions you're going to make that's going to impact your divorce. My ex, his attorney actually cost $100 more an hour than mine did. They're going to ask you to put down a retainer, which is a certain amount of money. It's a very expensive thing. I mean, it's very expensive. I don't know how people do it. I really don't. If at all possible, work out what you can work out with your ex. The more that you decide with your ex about how you're going to settle things, how you're going to divide things, and then of course talk to your attorney about it and say, do you think this is fair? The more that you can do directly with your ex is going to be so much cheaper for you in the long run, because if you have to go through an attorney every time, it's just becomes so expensive. And it became frustrating because I wrote him an email and he wouldn't say yes or no. It was just a yes or no answer. I had to contact my attorney, which cost me money. Then my attorney had to contact his attorney, which cost me money and him money. Then his attorney had to contact him, which cost him money. That was a lot of trails of money that could have been avoided had he just said to me yes or no. It's like, unfortunately, I went through a very contentious divorce and it did not need to be that way. And that's why you really want to get attorneys that are good. The biggest thing I can say is your attorney is not your friend. Your attorney is not your therapist. Don't talk about the drama that's going on between you and your ex, because you're just going to rack up a bill when you could have talked to a therapist, which is going to be much cheaper, or a friend, which would be free. Your attorney doesn't need to hear that stuff unless it's pertinent to the case. I lived in a no-fault state, but if you live in a fault state, well, then maybe you might need to tell them that stuff. On the whole, if you think that this is something you could talk to a friend or therapist about, then don't talk to your attorney about it. And I would say question everything. If you don't understand something, ask a question. Don't sign any paperwork unless you understand it, especially if it's a legal document. Especially if you're signing a paper that says, I'm signing this under oath, you better be aware that you could go to jail if you are perjuring yourself there. So make sure you understand what you're signing. Make sure you understand everything that is going on. So as far as this time period goes, that's immediately your partner has just left you, researching an attorney and finding one that you feel like you can trust and can communicate well is good, and then make those next steps with the attorney. Number 8 is secure your money. You'll want to get your attorney's opinion on this type of thing. So for example, if you and your husband have joint bank accounts, who gets that money and how much money can I take out of it? You want to make sure you talk to your attorney so you do the right thing there. But as far as, like, for example, let's say if you have a credit card in your name that your husband or your wife was an authorized user. I had a credit card in my name that had my husband as an authorized user. So I had opened the credit card account. I wanted him to be able to use the credit card as well. So I made him an authorized user. So because of that, I didn't want him to have access to that credit card anymore because it's in my name. So I called the credit card company up and said, I want to remove this person from my credit card account as an authorized user. Done. No problem. You probably want to make sure you have your own credit cards. If you have a joint credit card with that person and it's in their name, I wouldn't keep using it because that can get really tricky. I would highly recommend changing every single password, not just for online bank accounts, but for across everything, including your email. Change everything. Every health password, every bank password, every email password you have, I highly recommend changing it, because you don't know what your ex has and what your ex doesn't have, and they likely do have your passwords. I would tell my ex about how I created passwords. You know how you have to have those unique passwords? So I would tell him like my method of doing it. So I had to change my method of creating passwords. So all that stuff that you don't think about, that it's like, whoa, I should think about that. You want to think about what the worst case scenario is and make sure you don't get there. The last thing on secure money would be to document everything you do financially. Keep receipts so that you can easily prove it. You're going to have to show proof of your finances and where you spend your money. When you have to put together these financial affidavits, it's a lot of time and a lot of work, and you're going to want to know where your money was and where you spent it. It just makes it easier in the long run. Thank you guys for watching this video. Take care. Remember, you're not alone, and I'll see you in my next video. I love you guys. Bye.
You can count on it every time. It won't always be